What's up, everybody? This is Jeff Haynes, and I want to welcome you all back to Critical Pixels, Episode 1 of Sword Coast Legends. Now, for those of you that are watching this very first episode, probably tomorrow when I post it, which would be the October 21st, 2015, which is the day after it came out. Sword Coast Legends launched on October 20th from Digital Extremes and InSpace, and this game basically harkens back to that old school tabletop feel of D&D. If you happen to have any experience with the classic tabletop game of D&D, sitting around with a group of friends, a dungeon master, your books, your players' handbooks, your fiend folios, things like that. This is basically the game for you. Sword Coast Legends is essentially designed to create the feel of basically sitting down just in a digital realm in the realm of Faerun itself. So as you can see right here, once you've logged in, created your own user account and everything, you're basically given two separate options. You essentially have either the player option, which means that you can jump in and play either a single player or multiplayer style campaign, or you can actually play as the Dungeon Master. And what's really cool, and I saw this in action at an event last week, which was basically kind of a pre-launch event. Um, when you're playing as the Dungeon Master, you basically show up in some ways in the game world as a floating orb of light, if you will, kind of a will-o'-wisp kind of presentation. But what's really cool is that you always have this kind of mystical 20-sided die kind of floating around above you. And so if you decide or you choose to make your characters have to make a saving throw or check for initiative or whatever it happens to be something that you need to do. The die is already available to you, so you automatically have the option to basically cast that die roll behind the scenes. But on top of that, as a dungeon master, you can automatically decide what the levels are, how difficult they're going to be, how easy they're going to be. You can level up monsters on the fly, so you can immediately make a section or a dungeon harder or easier for the players as you wish. I mean, it really is kind of like leaving it up to the whims of the dungeon master himself or herself. Which, if you've ever sat around a table and your dungeon master happens to be on a tear, you know just how evil those players can be. Sometimes you just roll into a horde of works. Sometimes you turn a corner and there you go with a black dragon just basically ready to eliminate your entire party. So one of the really cool things here, and I'm just going to show you just by jumping in, is the player setup. So as you can see right here, you basically have three options. You've got a story mode where you can play through the story campaign that comes with the game. You have a module where you can basically play modules that have been created by the Dungeon Master toolset, which the Dungeon Masters can create. You can essentially make any adventure you can think of. So I'm pretty sure that as this starts to get out, there's going to be everything from the classic uh, classic box modules to maybe recreating the old SSI gold box adventures, like Curse of the Azure Bonds and Full of Radiance, stuff like that, to Dragonlance Saga, to what have you. I mean, this tool set ostensibly is supposed to be pretty wide open. And then you basically have a dungeon crawl, which is essentially a randomly generated dungeon, which just lets you just jump in, fight your way through, level up your characters, do whatever you want, stuff like that. So as you can see right here, I've actually kind of started to create just a few generic characters, just to kind of flesh out some of the character types. As you can see, it's nothing special, nothing bigger or major or anything like that, but it kind of gives you a sense of what you can do with some of the characters. And I'm actually going to create a new character just on the fly, just so you have a sense of what that character creation is like. So I'm just going to hit new. Um, and as you can see, once you jump in, you basically are brought to a screen with 6 separate category types for things that you can create, so or elements that you can tweak, and it's pretty robust. So let's see, we've got a male or female. Take your pick for the gender, obviously. Um, And then you have your classes. Now, with the start of Sword Coast Legends, they're basically hewing to a lot of the traditional standard classes. So as you can see, you have your ranger, you have your fighter, you've got your cleric, you've got your rogue, your wizard, and of course you have a paladin. Now, of course, there's only 6 character classes to start with, but Digital Extremes and InSpace are planning on expanding this significantly, so they will cover all character classes, all races as well, because the races are also limited to, human, elf, dwarf, halfling, half elf, and I believe that's about it. They're going to have gnomes. They're going to have tieflings eventually. They're going to have, uh, you know, a lot more classes, a lot more races. So you're also going to see monks. You're going to see bards. You're going to see a few more of the more obscure or more specialized classes as well. And that's really going to help flesh it out because that. If you've played a lot of D&D, of course, you don't want to be a standard generic class. That tends to get a little bit boring. It also gets to be a little bit more restrictive because all of a sudden you're going direct to your alignment, what your party needs, things like that. And a lot of times the fun of D&D at times happens to be either specializing with what character you want to be and how you want to play, but even playing those shades of gray for that particular character class as well. And then one of the other things is the backgrounds. Sword Coast Legends is actually taking from the 5th generation rule set. So if you happen to be like an old school player like I was, where you basically were playing all the way up through about like rule set like the 3rd generation, even like dipping your toe a little bit into the 4th generation, there are a few things that you're maybe going to be a little bit fuzzy on, only because they took a few liberties. But it's not that hard. It's not like you can't pick it up at all. It's still relatively easy to get, and I'll show you really quick. So just as a start, just to mess around really quick, I'm going to go off. I'm going to make a wizard character. So obviously, there's certain races that are going to have a few more benefits when it comes to magic. Elves typically wind up coming to mind, primarily because they happen to have a lot more bonuses to their intelligence. They're usually a little bit more magical, so they have a few more status immunity elements, things like that. Um, so right now, I'm thinking, just because of part of the benefits, I'm thinking maybe a moon elf for this particular character. Um, and let's see. So for the background, this actually confers a few more benefits. So they're actually quite a lot. I mean, you've got your acolytes for a lot of your clerics or your paladins. They give a few more bonuses, and all these backgrounds really help as far as giving you additional stats and traits that you can use. For instance, a charlatan might not be that bad for a magician, but that's more charisma. So maybe not. Let's see, criminals really useful for thieves because of the lockpicking and the dexterity. Entertainer, that's for charisma, so no, not so much there. Folk hero, that's a little bit more for fighters. Same with gladiator. I mean, that was pretty obvious, especially for the fighting elements, stuff like that. Let's see. What else have I skipped past while I've been just kind of rambling on a little bit? The guilds and the guild merchants, those really help as far as just like money and a lot of additional items and things like that that you start off with. A hermit, wise, but you start getting some bonuses to damage and repelling damage tonight, obviously for fighters and some paladins as well. Nobles should make you rich, and I'm pretty sure that the items that they give you can sell. And Outlander pretty much is a ranger style thing that you want. Pirates could basically be whoever. Let's see, Sage. Sage is pretty much the one that you want if you're going to be casting magic. As you can see, you spent years learning the lore of the multiverse, but basically you get bonus to your intelligence, you get bonuses to the damage that you deal with elemental spells and attacks, and that's obviously what we're gonna want. Sailor, no, not so much. It's really more to just stat bonuses to the reduction in the amount of damage you take. Soldiers, obviously, for fighting, and spy, another variation on thieves, and then street urchin, which is essentially just another variation as well. So as you can see, picking a specific background, I mean, you have to do it, but those things can also start to make up or balance out some of the minuses that you might get with certain class or race selections. So we'll just move on next, and we're not really going to do that much here, just to mess around with some of the skin color, things like that. We'll just set a few things up, and we can even zoom in and check out some of these things. So I mean, like, yeah, we'll give them kind of like the bluish hair and call it that. And let's see, hairstyle. It's kind of looking a little Elrondy. I don't want him to be a cue ball though, and that looks a little Wolverine-ish. A faux hawk. Alright, I guess we're just gonna go traditional on this one. Things like this, you can change the eye color of your characters, where the placement is, stuff like that. That's not too bad. The nose, pretty generic style things. Cheeks and the jaw, the lips and ears, like how pointy, or the angle, I guess, how full the lips are, stuff like that. If you're starting to get really picky. Right now, not really even worrying about it too much. Equipment. Now this is one of those things that I'm still trying to figure out, and I didn't really delve into it that much at the event, primarily because when I played, I basically wound up playing in a party with a couple different people, a few people from Geek and Sundry, and a few other press members, things like that. So we were already playing pre-created characters that were already leveled up for us for that particular demo. Obviously, for a mage, you're gonna want quarterstaff. That's clearly gonna have the highest value for them. And obviously, cloth robes. That's the biggest thing that's really going to be useful for channeling all your magic. So that brings you to stats. Now, obviously, as you can see, you get some of the racial bonuses already applied by being an elf, and also because of being of the traits. So as a wizard, everything is all intelligence. You're clearly going to be going intelligence all the way. You're going to just max that out no matter what you can do. And alright, 17, that's basically whatever I can do. Want to boost up that dexterity, definitely pump up all that constitution. I really could care less about the other stats because, mages can be spiky, they can be aloof, they can be whatever. It's not that important. You really need to be able to sling spells, get out of the way, and hopefully have as many health points or hit points as you can get to soak the damage that you take, because inevitably you're going to be taking quite a lot of damage. You're not going to be that strong anyway. So that's really going to be one of the keys when it comes to being a magic user, and we're going to go from there. So the next thing are the abilities. Now, one of the really cool things about the ability of the skill tree in Sword Coast Legends is the fact that you're not limited or tied to one particular specific style. And this is actually one of the things that I didn't know about last week when I played, because again, the characters that we were playing with that were rolled for us were already pre-rolled and already pre-leveled up to a pretty decent level. I mean, I think we were playing with like level 7s, and they were like just started out at level 7, so all of their skills were already preset, pre-made, and pre-selected and set for us without us needing to do anything. So all we basically had to do was just jump into an adventure, and there you go. This, on the other hand, gives you the ability to choose any particular skill, as long as you happen to have the prerequisites for it. And as you can see, there are actually a lot of skills. So, for instance, for a wizard or for a mage, right now we have this arcane tree, and that's basically just the study of spells, things like that. So right now, I can obviously do the classic, the standout, the necessary item in every mage's uh, arsenal, the magic missile. And I can't tell you how many times magic missiles have saved parties that I've been in, just rolling and just having a wizard roll up just like a arsenal of magic missiles and just letting them fly. So we're definitely going to look at that. But also in this arcane section, we have mage armor, which is a passive skill, which just automatically protects the magic user, and that is probably going to be really useful as well. You also can get Stinking Cloud and level all of these up, and of course, as you see, you can level many of these up. And of course, Stinking Cloud turns into Cloud Kill, which is always a nasty spell to have. And then you have Disintegrate, and Disintegrate Rays, always really nice to have as well, but probably not necessarily something you need to automatically spring for, especially since you have to be a level 11 to wield it. Hewing pretty close to things like that. I mean, obviously they're going to be taking some liberties with the 5th generation rulebook, but what can you do? So Frost, obviously you're going to be channeling and throwing ice, and this mage particularly already knows Ray of Frost, which it's not bad to actually have that. But that'll turn to Ice Storm eventually, which can turn into Cone of Cold, and that's always useful too because that can freeze a lot. And then Otiluk's Freezing Sphere, which that's always a nice spell, always a higher level spell. You definitely want to have a mage that knows what they're doing with that. Lightning apparently already knows which is Bolt, which is just standard cantrip. I mean, that is one of the things that I have noticed is that you're picking up a lot more on cantrips within this one, and the cantrips are actually going to be a little more usable. In many ways, most of these skills are going to play out very much like a WoW or like a standard action RPG, like a Diablo 3, something like that, where you basically you launch your ability, you have your cooldown period. You have to wait. When you're starting out, they're pretty extreme. They're up to like 40 seconds plus. As you start to level up those skills, they start to drop dramatically to the point where you can get them down to say I don't know, like 20 seconds or so. Depending upon the battle and how pitched it is, that's actually not too bad given what you're fighting. So, the Witch Bolt cantrip obviously moves to static. Static becomes pretty good as far as just boosting your lightning. Witch Bolt, of course, gets boosted. You have Thunder Wave, which I believe, just stacks, and then of course you have Lightning Bolt, the ever powerful, making people ride the lightning, and of course chain lightning. You have Flame, which of course is just fire bolts, fire cantrips. We already know where this is going. Now, Overchannel is actually interesting because it kind of boosts your damage. Almost kind of makes your mage go supernova, if you will. You have your firebolts, you have your immolation spheres, which of course also leads towards fireballs and meteor swarms. Pretty standard progression on something like that too. Manipulator, you have sleep. Sleep is it's a really important spell, especially if you happen to be a low-level magic user, just to knock people out so you can do the critical damage when they're asleep, or sneak past them so you and your party, especially if they're really damaged beyond repair, can move forward and hopefully survive to get to the next thing. Next adventure, next town, next campsite, or what have you. Always a good thing to have in your arsenal. As you can see, you've got magic weapons, you've got elemental weapons, you've got confusion and charm spells, eventually, stuff like that. Transmuter. Now, this is actually a little bit different, and it's a little bit funky too, because obviously they're throwing in things like, the slows, the invisibilities, some of the things that essentially start to mess with the world, so the hastes. in some ways it's almost like a catch-all, but it also is wrapping in some of the more well-known uh, temporal spells in this as well, or physical spells, which is why you see things like stone skin in here too, obviously for the transmutation effect of turning your skin into stone to increase your armor class, stuff like that. Then you have Summoner, and of course, as you are well aware, Summoner just basically lets you gate in or cast spells and make certain things appear. So uh, with that, you have stuff like Clouded Daggers, which can turn into Mordekainen's sword, so you can have magical dancing swords or weaponry. You can bring in like daggers from the sky with clouded daggers, which of course gets a lot more powerful. The conjure animals also starts to boost up pretty high once you've powered it up. You've got Mel's acid arrow, which is always useful from a distance, plus the damage, the acid damage, and the prolonged status effect that does. You've got Hold Monster, and of course, Hold Monster is probably just a lifesaver for most parties. And then Bigsby's Grasping Hand, which of course is also another more powerful spell that also does quite a lot of damage against people. Now, here's one of the other interesting things about the skill tree and abilities, and obviously, as you can see, I've gone over a lot of this for a while because, for one thing, all of these trees are new. They're different from class to class, so you're not like they're going to give you quite a lot that you can choose from, and you're also going to know that like it's going to take a while to clear out certain areas, certain puzzles, certain things that you are fighting through, simply because there are so many skills that you can also take care of, and a lot of times your approach is going to be completely different. For instance, as you look at the skills and proficiencies, these are going to give you a sense of like what you already are proficient in, what you know, what you don't know, essentially as a baseline of the race and the character class that you initially selected. So this is kind of what's feeding into part of this. Now, of course, you can boost all of this, and in many ways, certain classes have more boosts in this area than others. For instance, as a mage, because you are always searching and paying attention to both this world and the other world, you automatically get a search skill. It's a low level search skill, but it's automatically a search skill, meaning that you have a way to find hidden doors, traps, hidden chests, items like this, and alert people, whether it's yourself, people in your party, or what have you. But because of the skill and proficiency element, you can also make him a lockpicking priest. Not priest. Lockpicking mage. You can make lockpicking priests. You can make lockpicking paladins, although I still wonder how much of that would actually conflict with lawful good paladins. But maybe you're neutral good, maybe you're chaotic good, maybe you're true neutral paladin, or even, well, arguably, if you're dark paladin, you're a completely different character class. But I digress because I'm starting to get into a little bit of the hardcore of the dichotomy of character classes. But anyway, as you can see, there are a lot of skills and proficiencies that you can automatically choose from, and they all basically just take ability points, which I'm sure you wind up acquiring at the beginning of every single level when you level up. So for this particular mage, I'm going to choose Magic Missile because I like Magic Missile. It is always a standby, and it is extremely useful to have. I'm also somewhat tempted by the Mage Armor. I'm not entirely sure how many health points I'm going to have, and always having a little bit more is never a bad thing. So yeah, I mean it's nice to see that I have like pretty much a basic or a pretty solid set of preliminary spells and cantrips. So I am going to take the passive Mage Armor and learn that as well in Arcane. So that brings us to the summary. Now, of course, we have the ability to name the particular character. I don't necessarily have anything, but since he casts Magic Missile and he's got a lot of cantrips, we can just call him like Arcanum or something, something random, something completely different, whatever. As you can see, you have different portraits based off of the physical attributes that you basically gave your character, and then you have the option to do voices. So I'm going to just scroll through some of the voices and let you have a sense of what these characters could plausibly sound like.
Hello there. Might I have a moment of your time? Hello there.
Excuse me. Greetings. Of course. Psst. Come here a second. Yes? Psst. Come here a second.
Very well. Listen up. Very well.
Might I have a moment of your time?
So,
Well met.
Hello there.
I don't really think that I want a sniveling, like,
Very well.
sneering elf. It just doesn't seem like it
Hi.
fits. The puckishness I could
Yes?
possibly see, but maybe not for a
Excuse me?
mage. The griff just sounds a little weird,
Certainly.
so clearly I'm thinking about erudite. Now for alignment, this one really could be whatever you want. I am interested that they don't have like a true neutral. That's kind of an interesting decision, especially since they go through the entire spectrum, or they go through a lot of the spectrum as well. But right now, I'm just gonna make this guy possibly, I don't know, maybe neutral good. I mean, I don't know that I believe maybe chaotic good, although that's not really so much in playing with the elves. Lawful neutral I could possibly see. I mean, this is one of those places where I really can see true neutral, and I'm guessing that that's basically what they're trying to claim in this, especially for the druids and everything else. But I would still think that that would be more true neutral than just a neutral. It may sound like a lot of argumentative semantics, but in a lot of cases that actually does wind up playing out, and I have a feeling that it's entirely possible that this could play out very, very similar as well. So we're just going to pick a lawful neutral. Now, here's an interesting part too, because you have the option to choose deities, and deities, I'm wondering if this is going to actually play out, if it's going to come up if you start using your characters within the story mode. As of right now, I haven't seen anything that is necessarily played out with a god, but you never know. So, there's that, and these actually expand and contract based on the race and in some cases the alignment that you have selected as well. So, I am thinking that Azuth, the High One, probably is going to be really, really good for this particular guy. I almost wanted to say Mistra, only because she is the goddess of magic. You know what? I'll just pick Mistra. I don't think I've had anybody pick Mistra as of yet. But you also get like a really, really quick summary, and yes, I know that Arcanum is kind of a stupid elf name, but right now I'm not really thinking about elf names or particular titles, things like that. So, yes, you won't be able to back out, and poof, there we go. So there is the character that we just made. Now, right now, I'm just going to pick like the first character that I made. I'm just going to hop into a dungeon crawl, and I'm just going to start. So, obviously, you have 3 separate three separate difficulty levels. I'm just going to jump into normal. Now, because I am starting this myself, I can basically set everything up. I'm going to make this a solo game because I don't necessarily want anybody jumping in. And yeah, so there we go. Ready, and let us start. So So, of course, as you can see, if you pick a random dungeon, you can basically jump in with up to 4 people. Um, Now, what's really interesting, especially when I played it the last time, is let's see, go to the sideboard to create a dungeon. When I played this last week, the 4 of us, we all played, and we had really, we didn't have a healer. We went through and we were playing with a paladin who could perform a lay on of hands, but that was the majority of the healing that we had outside of potions. We had a ranger who had a good berry spell, which can help heal you, but it takes so long for that spell, or at least the baseline spell, to happen that it was practically useless. We had a fighter, and we had a rogue. The rogue came in really handy, especially when it came to disarming traps, but everything else was really, really low key. So it's really interesting, especially when we had the DM come in and start doing things to the point where a lot of times our party was wiping out, and we were getting apologies from the DM, especially because it was basically like their first time. So, as you can see, once you have created a brand new uh, dungeon by going to the signboard, you basically have options here. So you're finding out a little bit about the dungeon, what the name happens to be, a really quick description of what's going on. If you've been given any quest from anybody, which of course, since it's a random dungeon that we just picked up, there isn't an assigned quest, and then some of the settings. And you can essentially start to tweak and tailor some of these things just to give you a challenge as well. So I'm just going to pick this and accept it.
Of course.
Since it's the start. And
I can do that.
Let's get on to it. Let's enter the bandit caves. Now, of course, within that adventurer camp, you also have a few merchants as well, so you can pick up new gear, you can pick up new items, you can pick up potions for the trip, and things like that. But right now, since we're basically just doing a really quick one section dungeon, or one level dungeon, just so you have a sense of what the combat is like, we're going to bypass all of that.
As
now,
you wish.
of course,
At once.
you basically have your
Right away.
your movement,
Of course.
left
I can
button
do that.
to move, right button to attack.
As you wish.
Mini doors basically
They are
light up.
persistent. Some healing would be nice.
And yes,
At once. Of course.
oh, wow. And that's what happens
As you
when you
wish.
don't pay any attention and you're
At once.
you're literally trying
Right
to
away.
focus on things. So basically, as you can see, a lot of it
I'd
is
run
really
if I were you.
a situation of trying to figure out whether or not you need to pause and plan things out. In many ways, it's almost like Baldur's Gate. You've got that top-down isometric view. In many ways, you really have a limited
I could use some help here.
setup here, and you're basically just trying to figure out like who your targets happen to be, who your threats are, so that you can take them out and take them out quickly. I would rather have that skeleton
I can do
archer
that.
closer
At
because
what is it you require?
hopefully
Right away.
well, maybe
I can
not.
do that.
There we go. Just quickly stun you because you don't need to be firing any more arrows. And oh, God. That's right, victorious. So as you can see, one of the things that was really coming up a lot are basically figuring out who you need to target, when you need to target them, and then just go ahead and you select them, and they'll essentially auto-fight on their own. This goblin is really doing well when it comes to just dodging things. So we'll just do that pull, which should throw him off his game, or not.
As you wish.
And there we go.
At once.
So at the very end of a fight,
Right away.
usually if
Of
they have
course.
any loot, they'll drop it.
I can do that.
A
As
lot
you
of times
wish.
just have to mouse over
At
them,
once.
see if there's anything, and yeah.
Right
so-
away. Foes ahead.
Yes,
Of
there
course.
are. Oh, and of course it's a bugbear. Of course it's a bugbear. Why wouldn't it be? So he's stunned. we're going to try a victorious surge. Come on, surge.
Some healing would be nice.
Yes, some healing would actually be nice. Wow.
Can someone heal me?
I just healed you. And I'm gonna...
A perfect strike!
Sure.
I
I'll
can do that.
that.
I
As
require
you wish.
some assistance.
No, you don't.
At once.
Oh, really? A ghoul too?
Right away.
That's not fair. Wow.
I can do that, as you wish, at once. Right away. Of course. I can do that, as you wish, at once. Right
Foes
away.
ahead.
I can do that.
So,
At
the
once.
plus in many ways is there really isn't anything that really kind of like ruins your time or your chances. You're basically, especially if you're playing by yourself, you really just basically auto respawn as soon as everything is done, and you're right back in the action. For others, especially if you have multiple characters, you can basically always go back and reawaken or heal or revive fallen teammates, which is always a useful thing to do. It's a really important thing to do, especially if you're in the middle of a boss fight and you need the additional support, because the bosses will sometimes take you out entirely with 1 or 2 hits. It can be a little bit infuriating once you see that happen, especially if you've all been working just trying to clear a section or a level.
Of course. They were clearly no match.
And heal, improved healing. Okay. So, the potion of improved healing automatically in the
I can do
inventory, and yeah,
As you wish, at once. Right away.
let's
Of course.
keep seeing what we can find.
I can
out
do
here.
that. As you wish,
Maybe
at once.
that way, since that's the dead end. But anyway, many of these wind up
by your
becoming
leave. Right away.
very large, very sprawling areas as well. So you really do
What
have to
do
keep your
we
eyes
have here?
Indeed. What do we have here? Owl wisdom. +2 wisdom for 60 seconds, gold, and a short sword. Well, we're just gonna loot
course.
all of that.
I can do that. As you wish, at once.
Of course, you can always have breakable
Right
barrels,
away.
because it wouldn't be an RPG without
Of
breakable
course.
barrels. A vampire thrall already? Wow. That is ridiculous and horrible.
Yes? Over here! Help!
There we go. Whoa, no. Good? Of course, zombies. Why did it have to be zombies? Come on. There we go. Come on, Paladin. You should be full of righteous vengeance. Righteous vengeance? Okay.
They were
Awesome.
clearly no match.
Yeah, no kidding. They should have been. They should have just
I can do that.
demolished me.
How may I serve? As you wish. At once.
Let's see, so we spent. So one of the other really cool things, especially when something gets added, is you can immediately click on that item within the notification bar, and it brings you to your inventory. That way, not only can you get a sense of like how far you need to go before you end up leveling up, but also if you happen to have anything that you can plausibly wind up equipping for whatever reason. So right now, I'm
Right
just
away.
gonna close that.
Of course. I can do that. As you wish. At once. Right away. Of course.
Okay, I'm
I can
pretty
do
much
that.
waiting
As
for
you
an
wish.
ambush. Let's see.
At once. Right away.
Breakables. I'm waiting for there to
Of
be
course.
like a floor trap or something. Well, we
As you
do
wish.
like the potions of healing.
At once.
Those are always
course.
useful. So,
I can do
let's
that.
see.
As you wish. At once. Right away. Of course. I can do that. As you wish.
Can you
At
do
once.
that? Enter the adventurous camp.
Right away.
Interesting.
Of course. I can do that.
We'll,
As you
we'll
wish.
come back to that one.
At once.
Because I don't know if
Right
it's just
away.
because it's
Of course.
supposedly
I can
ends
do that. As you
or
wish.
What? But might as well just try
Right
to
away.
finish
Of
the rest
course.
of it, right?
I can do that. What is it you require? As you wish. At once. At your service. Of course. I can do that. As you wish. At once.
Can you really do that? I guess you can. Destroy those boxes. Destroy those boxes. Okay,
By your leave. Yes? Right away. Of course. I can do that. At once. Of course.
and
I
that
can do that.
would appear to be
As
the
you
dead
wish.
end right there.
Right away.
So, we're gonna go back to that
Of course. I can
door.
do that. As you wish. At once. Of course. I can do that. As you wish. At once. Right away. Of
because I
course.
believe that's
I
supposed
can
to
do
lead
that.
to the
As you wish. At
adventurous
once.
camp.
Of
I'm
course.
not entirely sure. if
As you
there's
wish.
Possibly
Right away.
A boss or a monster here. You can never tell. Sometimes they throw curveballs, but since this was just a one level item, learning to crawl, obviously you get a little achievement right there. But that was a really quick look, not only at the dungeon crawl, but also at the start of character creation for Sword Coast Legends. Be sure to keep coming back in the upcoming weeks. I'm going to actually dive into the story mode. I will probably try getting a few people online. Maybe we'll do a dungeon crawl together. Definitely want to show you guys a little more of the dungeon master element too. And because they're planning on doing a ton, and I do mean a ton of downloadable content for this game, we will hopefully see a lot more modules, a lot more adventures, a lot more content to come as well. Many of them addressing some of the gaps in the basic set, whether it happens to be races or classes, or even just simple adventures. So anyway, if you happen to have any questions, comments, or suggestions of additional games that you would like to see me play here on Critical Pixels, there are a number of ways that you can get in touch with me. You can leave a comment in the thread below. You can always email me at critpixels@gmail.com. That's CRITPIXELS@gmail.com. Or hit me up on Twitter at critpixels. I'm Jeff Haynes, and as always, may all your hits be critical, especially in Sword Coast Legends, and all your pixels stay bright. See ya.